a pain to find it all. So
I know. This meeting is being recorded.
there we go.
Da, 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 da,
Well,
da,
well,
da.
well, day two of the snowpocalypse. That's
I
or day
know.
three, 2.5. I don't really wasn't really bad Friday.
No, no. And actually I think it's I took
Took the
I
pup
took the
out.
dog out
Hmm?
this morning. He let me sleep in until 9 minutes past 9.
Uh-oh.
It's very peculiar because
You, you,
it was 7 minutes past 7 yesterday, and
this is
now
when
it's
he's getting ready to tell you that he ran up the credit card bill.
I'm like, you what? Hmm, something I'm sure I will discover something in the house at some point. And yes, Rat got the credit. What? Where all these porn movies come from on
or,
my cable bill?
or
Um,
there's some hole in the background that he dug, but he's happy now that the snow is covering it up. And
it wouldn't be porn movies. It'd be like, who's been renting Benji movies on pay-per-view? The dog's like,
who knew there were seven
huh?
airbuds? I don't. Yes.
So, but yeah, so I got up and
Well, I mean, it definitely feels different
yeah,
because the sun is out. You know,
yeah,
but it's still 12 degrees. So I mean, sun or
yes.
not, that's
Yeah, and it's like that's okay. I
yeah,
mean, the cold, it's quite I quite like it. Um, as long as we don't get, you know, the wind and the ice that increases the chances of power outages,
yeah.
then I'm okay.
And it feels
I'm
like
I'm
we've turned the
okay.
corner on that. There's no,
Touch wood
yeah,
for
there's,
the superstitious among us.
hey, I built those terracotta pot clay heater things that, in case, you know, tested them out a couple of years ago. I was like, oh my God, these really work.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So what's let's see now. Last time we were chatting about a
before,
menagerie of things, and this time, um, well, this is fascinating for people
well,
watching. Like, well, what the hell are they going to talk about now?
well,
They don't know.
I could hype a book that I finished that I think, you know, I know people hear these days books like the physical medium, and I was trying to find this image. Everyone listens to audio or all of this, but
Yes,
I'm gonna stick this up. It's a Star Trek novel by Greg
right.
Cox
Okay,
called Lost to Eternity.
right,
Now I had this thing for 2 years,
right.
because I ordered it. It was, and I didn't. I just ordered it because it was set in the TOS time frame that I like, kind of right after Star Trek 5, before it's Star Trek 6. Savick might be part of the crew because that's what the DC Comics,
Yes,
and that's the reason why I grabbed it.
yes.
But then, a few weeks ago, I don't know why I was at a doctor's office, so I took a book, and this is so relatable to the both of us in a way. It takes place in three different time periods: the prime TOS era, so about the middle of the second year of their 5-year mission, and then once again, the next part is in the said between Star Trek 5 and 6, and then in 2024. And in 2024, there is a young, energetic, true crime podcaster. Her and her partner are investigating the 20-year-old disappearance of Dr. Jillian Taylor.
Right.
And the events tie into both the other two eras because there's the obligatory big bad, and Greg Cox is a very good writer of a lot of Star Trek things. And what's funny, and I appreciate this, when you watch a movie and you go, oh, that's an interesting little beat, this is an interesting little beat, oh, that's funny. One of the points in there is where the two trash men are in the park at night when the bird of prey lands,
Yes.
and the strut comes down and crushes the trash can. Now, we all saw that.
Mm-hmm. Of
The CIA confiscated that trash can.
course they did.
And then you start listening to how Greg Cox sat down and did these things. So Dr. Jillian Taylor disappears. Her blue truck is just out in this park. But 2 days prior, the CIA took this trash can. She is ID'd on CCTV camera in a hospital, stealing a Russian spy who had fallen off the Enterprise.
Yes, that's right. She did.
With two unidentifiable men, one older gentleman who gave a woman a unknown substance and she regrew a kidney.
Right.
And that the other individual was a man she was on the date with at a pizza place.
Who was dressed in his funky maroon jacket.
Yeah, and that the the last known radio signals from the she disappears, the humpback whales disappeared, and there's this strange story from whalers about a stealth ship that appears out of nowhere, and these whales all disappear. So they're following that. They're following those threads, and every other government agency is getting triggered. And you go ahead.
No, what's the name of the group that they appear in the Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribulations? They're like the cops.
the temporal, yeah,
and
the time police.
Yes, and Kirk's name gets mentioned. They're like, oh, he's a menace. You know, it's sort of complete 15
different violations. Yeah. Yes. So
we freaking hate that guy. You know,
it was just fun because the way they write this book is, one chapter is in current time, then you skip to the TOS and you skip to the movie and you kind of go through there. And when I got done with it, it was a thoroughly enjoyable film because you did go to the source material and you steal all these little events like, it's also funny one time, this guy, he works in a warehouse and just average warehouse, they do plexiglass and things like that. And then suddenly he created this new element that no one had ever seen before. Now he's a billionaire. Just those little nods of
computer.
Computer. Yeah, they're wreaking havoc. But just that whole, I forgot we had a government, we had a Russian spy who was stealing nuclear secrets and he fell off the bow. And now he got kidnapped out of the hospital, but this missing doctor was there, and the whale doctor was there, and just
it's quite
the way the modern media starts putting it together and blowing it. It's almost like a small social commentary on there's not some clandestine group we haven't found on Earth yet.
Right.
They're in the 23rd century. Sorry.
You sort of envision that, like the Question has in that Justice League cartoon where there's all these pictures and there's, Chekhov in the hospital and there's a bit of red thread that leads to some pictures of whales that comes down here and there's a dossier about a crushed
trash can. Why would the CIA want the FBI want a crushed trash can?
And it's like, and this is why, you have to sympathize with those time agency guys when Kirk's name comes up. It's like, oh man, that freaking guy.
And and as a fan, when they said like, whatever number times he, broken the temporal accord, you're like, wait, I know of these.
Yes.
Oh, so there's and in the
what else did he do?
You're like, it's like every other week. Come to find out that he founded them, but it was
right. Yeah,
that's like Section 31.
No, that's it.
But I wanted first off, I wanted just to mention that book to you personally to say, hey, if you know, book on audio, whatever, I think
Yeah,
you would enjoy. And just any other Star Trek fans, you know, we don't talk
sure.
about it a lot. That it was Greg Cox has written a lot for the Star Trek universe, you know, since the Great Purge. You know, because back a few years ago, he got a new Star Trek novel every week, and
Right.
right, you know, every 6 months, and you know, a lot of people, a lot of these youngins don't know nothing about no print media. So, however you consume your books, I would, if you're a Star Trek fan, I would recommend this. This was not a paid endorsement, but doesn't mean it
No,
can't
no.
turn into one. Just hint, hint. You know, somebody wants.
Paramount.
Yeah, I'll read all your books
Yes, exactly.
if you want to.
I don't care who owns you.
Yeah,
But ooh, do you want to slip that one
yeah,
in
it's
there?
yeah,
Oh,
that,
slip that
yeah,
one in
that's
there, in there. So I have this. So we're doing our show and tell bit. It's kind of like
cool.
that MST3K invention exchange. Now, don't get your hopes up because it's been sitting by the side of my bed for a while, but I'm slowly working my way down the stack.
Now, is this
So
something I've been? Is this something I've been excited for you to read? And that's why
yeah,
you say don't
it
get my
has.
hopes up.
That's
Okay,
right.
okay, here we go.
It will get read. It will,
Yeah.
much like James Bond will return. It will get read. And now that I've pulled it out from its place on the stack, I'll probably, because I'm lazy, I'll probably just put it on the top of the stack, which would mean potentially next in line.
There you go. You know what we could do? We could do like an episode of you reading the first chapter,
We could.
which I'm sure would be very interesting to everybody.
That's right. You know, and then you'd see my face like, mm, oh,
Well,
what?
well,
Like
personally,
Conan?
yeah, personally, it's just beautiful George Perez art. I
It
can't say
is.
it's the best he's ever done in his life, but it
No,
is. There are
Saxon
some,
violins, man.
yeah,
Saxon violins.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
right, okay.
if that one doesn't get in trouble, the other day, Allie found my Black Kiss omnibus, and
Oh, thank you, Uncle Howard,
she was like,
for the little things.
"What is this?" I was like, "That's a comic book." Just put it back over there.
Yeah,
It's just,
that's some high quality smut, kids.
you know,
Oh boy, is it.
Howard has a theme.
Yeah. No, well, look, come on. Now, whatever your proclivities, whatever you may think, nobody, and I mean nobody, draws lingerie
Oh,
like Mr. Chaikin.
I don't know. That's
His sense of design when it comes to that, and wallpaper, actually. In Chaikin's strips, you see a lot of patterned
yeah, very,
wallpaper,
very, very intricate design
and it's like,
wallpaper, and
this is so good.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
No,
well,
he's
well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you know, the other day when you said, you know, maybe you can expand a little bit where you don't care if your vegetables touch on the plate or not. Maybe a good story is just a good story. I hope you find that a good story because you know and granted, I joke all the time. I have no desire to see all the universes all smashed into one big publishing house. I hope I never live to see that.
yeah,
Same thing with the movies. I mean, I can come up with you know all kinds of scenarios where you could do it, but that Avengers one, you know, with the start and end, starting, you know, never, you know, as a kid when you got excited, it was like, it's neat that Spider-Man meets Superman, and it's neat that the Batman meets the Hulk. I don't care about any of that, but
right.
I want to see this, and then it's like, what? I don't get it. Oh, you give me the Titans and the X-Men. Okay, that was all right, but that center page still fell out of that special, no matter how many of those you bought. Um, and to finally see that, it's just like it's just like whoof, it was well, it's like when Miracle Man showed back up again, and you're like, yay, I get to read the oh Neil, yeah, I'm never gonna live to see the end of chapter 3, am I? Oh,
So should I tell you? I'll tell you funny about that Titans X-Men special, right?
yeah,
So I I only knew of it by the house ads that were running in whichever Marvel comic book I was looking at the time. And it was I could probably do a Google search on this, but it was some sort of dark image and X-Men and the Titans, whatever. And at the bottom it said Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I remember
Okay.
because I was confused by what they were advertising the first time I saw.
Yes. So for years, I'd go into comic book shops saying, I'm looking for this book. It's called Apocalypse Now. And I think it's the X-Men, and I think it's the I'm not entirely sure. And most of the time, I just get this blank look like, Apocalypse Now? What the hell are you? Yeah, it wasn't actually called that.
Yeah.
It was called, Titans X-Men or something like that. But
And
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 then I
and I
finally
think
got it, finally read it, was like, I don't understand any of this.
well,
Mm.
I was like this. That's the first time I ever saw Apocalypse because I
Right.
wasn't reading DC at that time. I just discovered Titans, and so I
Yeah,
didn't know what Apocalypse was, and I hadn't seen the Saturday morning cartoons yet for that. So
that's what it was. It was Dark Side, Dark Phoenix,
yeah,
Apocalypse Now. That's
yeah,
what the tagline was. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
and that was. But I'm glad it's moving to the top of the pile. It just. Did you read anything of note after we got off yesterday?
Um, yeah, like I said, I'm still working through the um, McKay, Simone, X-Men
All right.
Uncanny. Kind of enjoying that. The deeper I get into it, um, I like a good, arrogant, take no prisoners Scott Summers. Scott Summers, I really do enjoy it when he's at his my way or you're all dead kind of a thing. And there's some really good moments where you're reminded about why he's such a rich character, because you would not be, it would not reflect poorly on you, I think, if you didn't have a, I can't stand Scott Summers. He's such a bleep, and it would be like, well, yeah, he is. He, he is. And we've watched the evolution of this from his issue one, 14 years old Slim, the kind of
Yeah.
the quiet, well, I'll never get a chance with Jean, certainly not because, Professor X is thinking, oh, she's quite a thing. It was another time, boys and girls. It was another time
Ooh.
having their Lolita, the potential for their Lolita moment. Um, and um, and then over time he becomes more and more wooden, and then they kind of unlock this. Well, actually, it's not that he's wooden, it's that he almost ticks the fanatical box in a way that, he's almost venturing into Magneto territory here. But he's more lawful. He's more, he got the upbringing from Xavier correctly. So he's not completely gone, but he does have that hard line that, again, you don't have to like him, but
Yeah.
you damn well will respect him, and and
I,
that relationship has always been kind of fun. I've always enjoyed watching that.
I've always enjoyed. I mean, I've always enjoyed him for the most part. I think there was a time in X Factor with the whole Madeline and Gene thing that he was lost in a
Yeah,
way that he should have
absolutely.
been. And I can't remember if it was in the official Marvel handbook that they did years and on and off for years. But I like the idea that he was a master tactician
Yes.
that he could you know multitask and someone I think it was Byrne that pointed out that because he could fire his eye beams like someone shooting pool, he understood geometry and he could
Hmm.
you know move the team around and things like that. And then when he lost control, well, I can't remember the Bendis run where his ruby quartz was an X on his face
Hmm.
instead of whatever. That's
Yeah.
when sometimes the characters, because I can understand if I can't I can't open my eyes without these glasses, and without blowing a mountain hole in the mountain, and everyone hates me. So humanity trying to come after my tribe. I can understand
Yeah.
some of his uh, views on life, and it's got to be traumatic being a student for Professor Xavier. Is he dead this week? Is he not dead this week? Is it an alien? Does he walk? Does he not walk? I mean, that would be confusing. Every time, is he a brood? Is he not a brood? I mean, at least with Magneto, you knew what you got. He's either a fanatic that Charles left in charge, or he
Yes.
wasn't. But Xavier, you never knew. Is this son that you didn't know about able to bend reality or not? Is it?
Um,
But Cyclops has always been my preferred X-Men. But then I also do miss the little click when it was written right of Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine. When those three in their downtime, the three of them sitting at a bar was always Wolverine saying things to make Pete uncomfortable, and all of that was my other fun little X-Men click.
I think so too. And that's where, to me, the strength of somebody as a um, not not a good writer, maybe an appropriate ex-writer. I don't know, because it can't just be about the punching and the
No,
zapping and the slicing and the bamfing.
and
It's
usually that should take a back seat. It
it
was
really
always about the
should.
people.
It's always about the people. Yeah,
I gave a shit about Stevie, the dance
yeah.
coach for a
Stevie Hunter,
while, and Nightcrawler's, was she a sorceress or not sorceress, girlfriend, and
right. Well,
oh,
Claremont does that very well. I mean, you could have. I mean, I could be wrong, but my sort of my memory is of, an entire issue or two could go by, but actually it's not much in the action side of things. Just people kind of sitting around and debating or having
no,
conversations or excuse me, playing baseball in the backyard. Um and no powers, Petey. Um so that's what you like, and the personalities are so different. There is an inherent There are inherent jealousies between some of them. There are inherent antagonisticisms between some of them. We won't dwell into the.
that sounds close enough.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
There are passions.
The AI didn't correct you, so
No, no, not at all. Which that could be a bigger problem.
yeah.
Um, and so it's, passions are there, or just I don't like you, or I would kind of like to know you better, that kind of thing. That's always super fun. When they all start sounding the same, that's when it's like, okay, well, you kind of lost the plot here a little
Yeah.
bit. I also think that, we covered this. We covered this in the one of the first podcasts we ever did, where we were talking about Krakoa, because that whole Krakoa era thing was kind of just started. It was kind of well into motion, but it was still early on.
I think it's kind of in year two
Yeah, and I
when
said that, the problem is, or what I'm worried about, is that they're going to they're going to achieve a level of peace and fortitude and success that's almost going to undermine the whole purpose of their story. There you go. And then we had a follow-up podcast after the last Hellfire Gala,
yes,
where I was like, this is absolutely what needs to happen. They have to lose, because if they don't, that's it.
yeah,
That is the end. That is the point. The Fantastic Four never stop exploring. The Avengers never stop avenging.
uh,
Um, no, the Avengers never stop being the heroes that everyone can rely on. The X-Men, they always have to be in that struggle for life. Um, And in the right hands, even when they lose, you know, God, that sounds like a Claremont line. Even if they win, they lose.
Still losing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But that's why I really liked Avengers versus X-Men, which I still think is one of the better
Well,
events.
are you talking about that mini series from way back in the?
The
Oh,
Bendis one.
I was
Yeah.
going further back.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no. The Bendis one, because the reason why I liked that and think it's a much better approach than Civil War, because Civil War, somebody wins, somebody loses, and you're like, great, because how often does it? Okay, it was a stalemate.
Yeah.
It's a tie.
Oh,
You know,
anytime Stan Lee wrote them.
yeah. But when it came to Civil War, Iron Man wins, Captain America loses, and I think we've covered this in podcasts
Yes.
as well. The more you think about it, certainly the more that I think about it, the more I'm like, hang on a second. This none of this really rings true. Captain America lost, but his point was the winning point. And
Yes.
Iron Man won, but his point is the losing point. And then they play that out with the fall of Tony Stark, and he loses, and
Oh
then we
yeah.
get into scrolls and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, hang on a second, you've just gone out of your way to sort of unprove or disprove what you proved. That doesn't work. But Avengers versus X-Men, um, I went into that expecting, well, the X-Men have to lose because by their very nature, they are going to lose,
Yes.
which sounds like the cards are stacked against them. But then they introduced the bit with the Phoenix, where it was the Phoenix Five. And there was a brief moment of time, and I remember all this very clearly because my children were quite little then, and they didn't read comics. But we would be on drives, and I would tell them what was currently going on. I don't know if they were actually interested in what I had to say, but
Well,
they
they enjoyed hanging out for
they
dad
were
and listening to
quiet, and
stories.
they
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, wow, okay." So I remember
You
getting
were molding them at a young age. You know you were.
trying to. Um, And there was that moment with the Phoenix Five where I was like, well, hang on a second. They could win this. What does that mean for the Marvel Universe if the X-Men actually beat the Avengers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. And then all of a sudden it gets very exciting, and then it's like, no, 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 they lost. And that's okay. Um, but but I always liked that because they lost for the right reasons, and the Avengers won for the right reasons because it rang true. It's a testament to I think Bendis as a writer that it that worked in the way that Mark Millar's exploitation fantasy, which is how I still view it, didn't. And then of course Bendis got to do Civil War 2, and I just scratched my head like, why would you even bother? Why would you even want
Well,
to
to
do
me,
that?
you didn't have to call it that.
No,
I mean, you
no,
could have, and I think that was to
big
the
mistake.
detriment of. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, and we have talked about Civil War a couple of different times, and and Jason as well. You know his take of I don't like seeing heroes fight
I
each
hate
other.
it when mom and dad fight.
Yeah, well, it's and it definitely was a product of its time.
Mm.
Um, I remember for me, I got the first issue, and then hours later, my friend Cliff had called me and told me his son had died,
Mm.
and I remember pulling off. I was in Irving, pulling off the side of the road. I'd bought it at the Irving Lone Star, and I was sitting there thumbing through it, and Cliff had reached out to me, and it has a different emotional bittersweetness for me because of the timing of all that. But
Right.
I do look at it that in that realm, I don't know, they had to, Cap had to be assassinated later. I'm not saying that, but Cap would have lost, but he was going for the right reasons.
Mm,
And it must have been a master plan that, Tony was definitely going to end up being head of Shield, and then his arrogance was going to be X, Y, and Z, and that's how it's fall. And I remember in all of that, I was like, I remember a time when Tony Stark just built armor.
mm,
He wasn't he might have been the top 20 most intelligent people in the Marvel universe. And thanks
right.
to, the Iron Man movie, he became, the Reed Richards of um and I was like, well, the guy that just builds armor wouldn't crack time travel. Is what I was sitting there in Avengers Endgame
Yeah,
going,
there
yeah,
was a bit of
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I just figured out time
Um,
travel.
but
Time for a protein shake.
and
Yeah.
when they tapped Civil War for the movies, and God bless them for. I enjoyed it. It was probably one of my top five, mainly because it introduced Spider-Man. It did some other things, um, but I was like, ah, without arguing about the secret identity thing, this is just a bunch of people pissed off and fighting each other in the comic book. But over here in the movie, you made it um, a little more realistic as far as the government wants, to put these controls in place. They didn't care who you were. They didn't want to know what your secret identity was. And
Yeah.
I guess it's the kind of the pivot between the comic and the movie. But I all that to say that about a year ago, I sat down and reread. I think it's after you and I spoke. I reread Civil War after you
Mm,
kind of explained to me Millar's political,
mm.
thing. All that. I sat there. I was like, man, I missed a lot of this when I was reading. When I was reading it the first time, I just thought Marvel was trying to argue the benefits of the government knowing everyone's identity and categorizing them or something. Because I took it more in a concentration camp kind of direction instead of the
Um,
oh
yeah, I mean,
I mean
it's
because they did come up with that alternate dimension thing where the negative zone jail
yes,
really bothered me. And when I first read that, I was like, oh, that's it. But
yeah, it's a bit, we're sending them to Madagascar. Really?
yeah,
That kind of a thing.
yeah.
You wonder how far that was going to go. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a
I mean, we're way off topic from the X-Men,
no,
but
no, but
it's fun to
but we're talking. I think what we're actually talking about here is legacy,
yeah.
and so much of these funny books that the big two put out are based on legacy of what's come before. And you always hear that, well, you don't want to get too hung up on continuity.
Continuity. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get what is and is not canon because you never want that to get in the way of telling a good story. And we all like to believe that. Sure.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's a business. And if you push it too far out of whack, this is why you'll never have this is why you'll never have a Secret Wars follow-up miniseries where the Beyonder comes to Earth and says, I've solved all your problems.
Yeah.
And everyone sits around and goes, oh, okay. And they all lived happily ever after. That's it. Boom. Shunk. And there you go. There was a moment when in the first iteration of the Multiverse podcast, when I was chatting with Harvey, and I was talking to him about, or rather, he asked me that I'd come into the comic shop and I'd recently picked up some Marvel comics, and he's like, "I thought you didn't read Marvel." I'm like, "No, I don't, but I'm interested." Um, it was the first issue of the Immortal Hulk,
Mm.
and there was a Spider-Man in there. There was a couple of things. It was the Immortal Hulk that I was like, "Well, that sounds interesting." And Al Ewing is pretty good. I kind of liked the take on that. And he was asking me about, so what brought you back in? And we're chatting. So, well, what made you leave? I said, well, it was Secret Wars. It was the end of Secret Wars because Jonathan Hickman blows everything up and then puts it all back together. And if you look at it as a jumping off point, you could say, and that was the end of the Marvel Universe. And I was like, actually, maybe I'd like that. Maybe I would like to say, because I quite liked that story. And as you know, I loved Hickman's Fantastic
Yeah.
Four, loved his Avengers. Then he gives us Secret Wars, and it's Doctor Doom, and kind of the best. You've got Doctor Doom, Beyonder, Molecule Man, and it's like this is insane. How do you write your way out of this one? And the answer is you don't. You just blow everything up. And uh, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm okay. Because in those comics, you would see solicitations for coming next on Wolverine or coming next on Iron Man or Daredevil or whatever it was something like that. And it
Yeah.
was like, how can we just go back to this when we've had this?
You know, as you're describing that, it well, in that wonderful universe where I'm a Green Lantern and you're a noir uh, detective.
I'm
You
Slam
imagine,
Bradley.
could you imagine if Hickman had been employed at Marvel at the time that Jim Shooter wanted to end all of Marvel comics and start new, because that's what New Universe was
That's right.
originally before.
Yeah,
Could you if those two masterminds had been, you might have gotten your wish.
possible.
I mean, because it would be, because you're right. You could have, if the celebrate the 25th anniversary, whatever anniversary Shooter was trying to
It's the
celebrate.
25th. Yeah.
Yeah. To end the Marvel universe. And you had the young Mr. Hickman sitting there writing that. Um,
Our story begins in DP7.
well, yeah. Well, what's gonna and this also kind of ties into a thought about the difference between two publishers and the X-Men and what Hickman did.
Mm.
Because because of you, I have gone down the Hickman rabbit hole more and more and realized that a lot of times he's writing stuff that is enjoyable but way over my head. His fan, and you're very much right about how smart you have to be to write the Fantastic Four.
You do.
They can't be, they're not meant to be a comedy troupe or anything. But the danger with Hickman is that in the Marvel universe, you cannot, and Morrison tried it and Josh Whedon tried it, but not Hickman, you can't bring them all back to the mansion. You can't bring all the X. You can't take all the X-Men back into the school right now. I mean, you've
No.
got them off because you did this large thing where they're almost a galactic superpower,
Yes.
and you can't thin it out.
No.
But in the DC universe, I can reset the Justice League all the time
Yes.
because they're not a. I mean, what? First off, they're not a family-based entity. The Titans may be the closest that strike as family. Because the JLA to me, they're friends, but they're work buddies. That's my work wife, Diana. That's not my child, but the Avengers you can pull back into the mansion. Fantastic Four, you can bring them back into the Baxter building at some point. The Defenders, you can all show up at Doctor Strange's brownstone. But I don't think, short of wiping out the Marvel universe and starting all over again, kind of like what Claremont did with the New Mutants. It's hard to push. You can't push these guys back as students. They could be teachers and all of that. But if you really wanted to fix the X-Men, would to be back in the story, like we were telling stories like we were talking about of the secondary characters that we all liked about in the relationships. And I think Cyclops has outgrown that ability. Wolverine's become something else. You still tell good stories. It's not me lamenting that, it's never going to be the same again. But I see myself every time they relaunch the Justice League, I'm either going to like this team or not. X-Men, I fell in love with them at X-Men 141 and 142. God help me. And so that's always going to be my team in scenario that from there till 300 I enjoy Hickman stuff was revolutionary. Part of me wishes it wasn't the. I mean, I'm glad it was the X-Men, but I wish there was something other than the X-Men. Josh Whedon came close to getting them back into the school, um, and I don't know if the world needs a school. Sometimes I think Scott might need the school to enjoy it again.
Again, I think it,
Thoughts?
yeah, and that's why I said appropriate, an appropriate writer, not necessarily, you don't want the good writer. I mean,
No.
yes, of course you do. You want a good writer, you want a talented writer,
But
duh.
but even Secret Wars, if we'd done that with Hickman, that might have given me a chance to have X-Men in a mansion again. That's just
Entirely possible. And it's
uh,
entirely possible. Marvel has always tried very, very hard to not hit the reset button the way that DC did in
could
with
could you imagine
Crisis.
it? I mean, I'm not advocating, but could you imagine if they did? I mean, for some reason, we all accept, oh, I'm going to hear how Clark came to Earth again, or
Mm.
oh, did they unfreeze Steve from now the new
Well,
Zdarsky miniseries is, or the series is, hey, this is Cap, and he got unfrozen, and now his war is the Afghan war and things like that.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think
but the
that they
DC can do that, but Marvel, my God, that would be,
no, but you see, but Marvel does. They just do it in a less profound way. That's where the Ultimate Universe came
yeah,
from. It
yeah.
was like, well, why don't we just do it again, but we'll do it with modern sensibilities and we'll see where it goes.
Could you imagine if Heroes Were Born had been successful?
Oh,
I
no.
mean, it was commercially, but I mean, could you imagine if it had taken off and sold all their books, and they're like, well, hey, we licensed out some of these other guys. Who else can we get? Because that's what the bookkeepers do. It's,
No, that's right. That's right. But when, I remember at the height of the um who's got the bigger member, wink wink,
yeah.
between Marvel and DC. And then New 52 came along, and it was this, you remember,
Oh
the
God,
first couple of issues, everybody's buying everything, like, oh, this is amazing. And then it's like, wait a minit, what the hell are they doing with Starfire? Um,
yeah. What? Yeah. What
what the
happened to
heck? What with Batgirl? Wait a minute, whoa, huh? Hang on.
what's going on with the Titans? What
Yeah,
the
this is
hell?
all, no. Um, And the Marvel response was, oh, we don't have to do that. We got our characters right the first time, which at the time was like, that's a pretty
Bold statement to
bold statement. Now it's like, you cocky little shits. I mean, come on. You had the ultimate universe. You just win out it in a less threatening way.
yeah.
If it works out, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. So you always got to give a little bit of respect to DC for committing so hard. We're going to wipe out everything. Um, but the Avengers X-Men thing is that I think it's inherent in the DNA of the franchise that the Avengers is about the group of individuals who come together under the common cause. So as long as those individuals have the public trust as being heroes,
No.
then it doesn't matter. You blow up the mansion, have them be, the Bendis's Avengers run. That one of my favorite moments is Captain America approaching Steve Rogers approaching Peter
Oh,
Parker to say, you want to be an Avenger, and he's like, yeah, yeah, I'm really. This is great. The timing is really good because I'm really kind of hard up right now. Oh, there's no money.
yeah.
And Parker's response is, that's so me.
Yeah, I remember that panel. You showed up to teach these kids today. Well, yeah, someone has to.
Well, someone has to. Yeah, yeah. Um, and of course, they're going to get a mansion. They're going to get the high rise. I mean, yeah, they might lose it again for a bit because of Norman Osborn, but it's going to go. There's always going to be an opportunity for that kind of, let's ground them and return them to the establishment position that we want to do. X-Men, no, you're right. Whenever so much of the current storyline that I'm reading involves this nefarious group that's turned the Westchester, the school, the mansion, into a prison
Yeah.
for mutants. And you're like, okay, so the building is there. Are they going to claim this back? What? How does is that where this is going? I don't know. I don't know. Um, but so far, the narrative is you got one group hiding out in Alaska and you got another group hiding out in Louisiana. That's not. It's not unprecedented. We've
Oh,
been here before. They're licking their wounds. We don't have every X-Man ever appearing, so they've kind of got a cherry pick on the teams. Everyone else, where's Polaris? We don't know. Where's at this point, where's Colossus? We don't know. And that's fine. We're just going to go slowly that way. Again, as long as the storytelling is sound, it's fine. But in terms of the legacy of it, yeah, you're right. It's like after Krakoa, the only way to top that in terms of its effect on the Marvel universe. Well, actually, they already did that. They did that with House of M. That's what that is what you would get.
yeah.
You get a situation where they are now the recognized and accepted dominant force. Well, you can do that in a miniseries. You can do that because Scarlet Witch went crazy again. But you can't do it ongoing because then it's like, well, again, they can't win.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yet I'm sure some people would be like, no, I really want them to win. And well, there was a lot of
Yeah.
kickback from the Krakoa era. It's like, you gave them all of this, now you've taken it away.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. But if you look at the legacy, you're absolutely right. You know, they
fail,
always lose, or it's
always
just
lose.
the today's not worse than yesterday. Yeah, kind
Yeah,
of. Yeah,
kind of. Yeah,
yeah, kind
yeah,
of break even.
yeah.
All the
And it's just that. It's like, do it's kind of like, go with me on this.
you go with
Okay,
me. So
go with me on this. Okay. I fell down an IMDb rabbit hole yesterday because I was looking up Ernest Borgnine. And the reason why I was looking up Ernest Borgnine, like you do, is that I knew he was 95 when he passed away, but I couldn't remember what year that was. And I was trying to figure out, like, where some of the movies that he made fell in his lifespan. Because Ernest Borgnine, I think, is one of these people who looked like a 50-year-old man when he was a teenager.
yeah,
And then he just kind of held that look, Borgnine, like a
al-
young Borgnine.
almost like Ed Asner.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes. It was a strange thing the day I was watching a rerun of Mary Tyler Moore, arguably one of the greatest sitcoms ever put together. So, and it still holds up. So I can watch this because Ted Knight is just comedy gold. And I see Ed Asner, and it occurred to me, I'm about 10 years older than Ed Asner was when he made that show. And he looks like he could be, like, I look at him like he could be my dad.
Because Ed and Ernest, there's this point in time where they had dark hair, and then overnight they didn't. I
Right.
mean, it was like
Yes,
that. It was that
that's
fast.
it. That's it.
And from
So,
then on, yes, they were. And it's kind of the Don Rickles effect too.
uh-huh.
You know, Don
Oh, yeah.
Don looks like he could have been a mobster, all the
Oh, yeah.
curmudgeon
Absolutely.
old man.
Well,
But
and that's the thing is that then you find out when these people pass away and you're like, wait a minute, they're still alive?
yeah,
Didn't they
yeah,
die years
no,
ago? How old? What? It's like Abe Vigoda.
yeah, yeah, yep,
Abe Vigoda was like 40, early 40s, I think, when he was doing Barney Miller or something like that.
he
And
looks
it's
worn
like,
down.
he
Yeah.
looks like my granddad. I mean, he really looks like my granddad, who was 86 at the time.
Oh,
But anyway, so I'm down this rabbit hole looking up all things Borgnine. I didn't know he spoke Italian. I didn't know this. I didn't know. That's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And they made mention of the fact that starred, he was the only actor who appeared in all four Dirty Dozen movies. Okay. So my first thought was there were four.
That's why I'm going, wait, what?
I remember the first one, of course. And then what I remember of the second one is I think they brought Telly Savalas back, but as a different character, which when you see the ad for it, you're like, that's Maggot. He died in the first
What happened?
one. What I don't understand this. Um, but so they made four of these. So at that point, you got to be thinking like one of the things that makes God, this is so off the rails, but I think it'll tie up. I think it'll work. One of the things that makes The Dirty Dozen work as a film, and it does. Dirty Dozen is a very, very tight, very lean. It's mean. It's ugly. It's the. It's totally antithetical to the types of war movies America was putting out in the 1960s. You're rooting for these guys. You want them to succeed because the enemy is so much worse. But they're all bastards. You really, really don't
It,
like them,
it,
except you
it
kind of do.
it's a Suicide Squad.
It's the Suicide Squad. That's exactly right. So as you're going through and they're dying, because
That's
that's
what they do.
that's kind of what's going to happen here. You do get to that point where you're like, are any of them going to make it out of this? Well, let's just hope they complete the mission because it's this weird thing like you're rooting for them, but you're rooting for them to complete the mission.
Yeah, you don't care if any of them show up for
No,
Thanksgiving
for
dinner.
medals.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And then in the end, it's what is it? It's Bronson and is it just Bronson or is it two of them? It's been a minute. But anyway, so once you get past that movie, you're like, okay, well, I was kind of hoping it would end this way because that's true to the premise. But then again, this is also a war movie made in the 1960s. They might all have survived. They might have all have found their goodness. They might all,
their
it's
redemption
their
story arc. Yeah,
redemption story.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't really know. Um, the idea that they then made four of them. I haven't seen two, three, and four. I have no interest in seeing two, three, and four. Partly because it'd be like, well, unless one of them goes down that road of, well, actually, in this one, the Dirty Dozen find their humanity and they become a cause for good. There's a fantastic sequence where, they save those orphans. They veer off mission and save those orphans from that burning house. And, and they like, and then there's that scene where, one of them is like, he finds God,
Yeah.
you know, please, and all this kind of stuff. And oh wow, and they survive. It's a miracle. Wow, who knows? No, that's crap. It wouldn't be a Dirty Dozen movie. That's kind of how I feel about the X-Men, is that when things were going great in Krakoa, and again, we covered this on the podcast, there was always that part of me that's like, can't keep this up forever, boys and girls,
No,
because it's not doing what it says on the tin. They're supposed to be um, hated and feared, not part of the establishment.
and once again, I've said it many, many times. I feel bad for the writer that has to come behind Hickman.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah.
Because
Um
I mean, that's just. I mean, you know what? I would.
yeah.
I would love a grand experiment. Hickman gets done, leaves the book, and then you put Grant Morrison on it.
Well,
I mean, it's because two people who really. I mean, Hickman always sounds like he has a plan. Comes into the meeting with a
hmm
big book and all of this,
yeah.
and um, Grant Morrison, while an agent of chaos in a way, um, does respect the art and the craft. He too wants to tell a good story, and he did write the X-Men. So, um, I
Yeah, but that's not a very good pedigree for
no,
him,
not
given how that ended.
No, but it started off with a bang. You know,
Sure did.
we were all excited, and you know, we got right up about to, you know, when we started rotating artists every third issue, and things like that. But just somebody like how what is a good counterweight to a Hickman project? Because once again, the Fantastic Four spun out of control after he left. They canceled it what 5 times before they got it,
Mm.
you know, until we just said, Secret Wars, they're out there resetting universes. We can't bring them back. It even poor old Dan Slott, he tried really hard, but you know, which writer are we enjoying now? It's Mr. North, who,
Mm.
you know, so you're talking about 5, 6 years after
Yes.
Avengers, they it almost like it sputtered.
Oh, most
It right,
definitely.
and so with the X-Men, because to me, all the other, even the Fantastic Four, that storyline was great, but it wasn't as big as Krakoa because it took these guys and put them in a world that they shouldn't be making medicine or any of that other stuff, and you get all that in there, and then it's like, oh yeah, Hickman's kind of done. On the New Mutants, it wouldn't really matter. Marauders, he wasn't writing that. That didn't, you know, who cared about that? Excalibur, you know, that's, but X-Men, who, you know, do you go to Grant Morrison? Do you go to Bendis or God help us? Do you go to Chris Claremont and go, hey,
Well,
well, you know,
okay.
my
I hadn't thought
bad.
about that. No, 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 no,
No,
no,
just
no,
like,
no.
you know, with them like, hey, my bad, but
Well, here's the thing.
oh,
You just asked a very interesting question. You said, who could follow? And the first thought that went to my mind was actually Chris Claremont,
yeah, man.
because Claremont, in many ways, he's either the poison to Hickman's antidote or the antidote to Hickman's poison, depending on how you want to view it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Hickman, I think, could be wrong. Maybe I'll meet him in a convention one day and he'll go, "Oh, you're the guy who has the idea." Um, is that Hickman gets an idea and then it's all about, oh, I've got all these toys and action figures that I can play with, and I'm going to sculpt them and put it all around to tell the idea. He wants to convey that idea. Whereas Claremont is like, oh, I've got all these toys and everything. Oh, I love playing with the toys. To me, it's about the toys. It's about the interactions. The idea can come and go. Maybe I'll start a storyline. Maybe I'll get bored with it halfway through and we'll never come back to it again. And for those readers who are enjoying that storyline, they're going to go, you, another loose thread, Claremont? Really? You never finished the flipping. Ooh, how long did we have to wait for the whole Siege Pirelli? Anyway, it's oh gosh, okay, convoluted, and you sort of you open a copy of the X-Men anywhere from about 1988, 89 onwards. And it's almost like it releases this spectral genie of Chris Claremont saying, look, now I know what's going to be bothering you. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy. Look, they're sexy, they're cool, they're outcasts. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Oh, Wolverine, yay. So that's how they're different. You want somebody who's just, if they can't come up with that idea, and my God, Hickman is just the idea man, you know. Um, if you can't have that, then you should at the very least be able to write those characters like they're living, breathing things. Um, Speaking of which, I've just had a thought. Did you by any chance see that little scuttlebutt story that occurred this week regarding the private chat room and the criticism about Jonathan Hickman and how one of the members of the chat room accidentally outed someone who was very critical of
No,
Jonathan Hickman's writing?
no.
Yeah.
Where was this
Listen,
scuttlebutt displayed?
well, there's a
Bleeding,
website that
bleeding
kind of
cool.
specializes in
Uh,
such things.
did I name the website?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay.
I was going to be yeah, whatever. Um, and
We're not being
yeah,
critical of them. We're just
no, no, no,
complimenting them
no.
on their efficient
Well,
reporting.
so there was this chat group and they were talking about things.
Now, was Hickman a part of this chat group, or give
No,
me more
no,
background? Okay.
no, 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 no. They were just talking about comics and things. And one person made comments about the gibberish that was Hickman's Fantastic Four. Oh, I had to give up on this. That made no sense. I couldn't, and I'm like, okay, well, I followed it. I know I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I followed it pretty well. Kurt Busiek. And I'm like, what? Kurt's got a problem with Hickman's run on the.
Uh,
He didn't understand it? How does that, And yeah, it was kind of a screw up.
well,
I
and
think it
I'm
was somebody Brian Talbot, I think, the British artist, Luther Arkwright, Nemesis Warlock. Lovely, lovely man. Yeah, he wasn't so good on his redacting, so he left a big clue that
who it
it
was.
could only be Kurt Busiek. And I
Well,
was like, well, hang on. First off, you shouldn't be talking smack, but you're in a private chat room, so okay.
yeah,
But number two, it's like if Kurt Busiek's got a problem with Hickman's stuff,
there. I mean, I will
I don't
say,
quite know how to take that.
well, I will say that there are Hickman fans
Oh yeah, no,
and there are Hickman detractors, but there's very few in the middle.
you do either. Yes,
Yeah,
he does
and
occupy that Tom King. You
and
either
and
love him
actually,
or hate him.
as we're talking about this, the comparison that came to something that came to my mind just as we're chatting about this, for those of you who've watched all of Community, that TV show Community, imagine Abed in the same Nicolas Cage class talking about Hickman. That's what I think. That's not where I kind of think of. He's either a genius or a madman. He's always getting work, but you can't follow. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it took me a decade to reread the Fantastic Four because I gave up on it.
right.
And the first run of his Avengers, I think I ended it with issue 3 or 4, which I will say, if you're trying to follow Hickman's storytelling, you can't do that. You
No.
can't give up on third or fourth issue. So you have to. The only one the only work of his that grabbed me really hard, and I feel like I'm the lone guy left on the island that enjoys it, was this run of Ultimate Spider-Man, and only
Mm.
because it's given me the Spider-Man that I always wanted. Like I
Yes.
said, because I didn't one more day, all of that stuff. We've talked about that many, many times on the podcast.
Mm.
But when I go back, the gentleman does Strange Brain Parts podcast videos, and I watched. He did a very good Hickman overview. Some
Mm.
of his independent work. I'm looking at it, going, "This is why I never knew anything about Hickman. I didn't. None of his independent stuff would be anything that's interesting to me. So I don't follow Hickman to different properties. Hickman lands on properties that I enjoy for me. Like
Right.
as a Fantasy Four fan, he showed up and I went, that also ties into the next little thing as I was thinking about, he's the Nick Cage of the comic book universe, which I think we'll
Probably love
copyright
that.
that.
I mean, what a compliment.
Yeah, well, it is because once
He
again,
still gets work. I
you
mean,
either love Nick Cage or you stand there and go, "Oh my God." Given the volume of Chris Claremont's work in the X-Men, when he took over the Fantastic Four, he very much felt like a fish out of water. So, is Claremont a great comic book writer or a great X-Men universe?
there you go.
And
And that's it. You got
and
it.
it's fine either way.
It is, but that's why I say
Yeah.
he's appropriate. Claremont is so appropriate for the X-Men. He got it. He's like, I can do this. This is the soap opera. This is never going to
Yeah.
end. We're just going to keep going and piling it on and piling it on and piling it on. And the drama comes from how much can these poor bloody mutants take? And along the way, sometimes they'll die, and sometimes they'll come back. Most times they'll come back.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll get split up. And of course, that was always the big thing. It's like, wait a second, half of them are now in Australia, and the other group, the X Factor group, are like, well, hold on, they're all dead. So they get to actually play out the we're dealing with the loss, but they're actually alive. And then, Wolverine is sniffing around the Morlock tunnels before then. It's like, I know that scent. Jean Grey, what the? Hey, this kind of stuff. Super fun. Never ends. But that's okay. Because if you enjoy that kind of, I put it to you like this, my friend. So we're in the middle of a winter storm, and I'm reminded that 5 years ago, in this exact same location, we had another horrible winter storm. And I was housebound for a few days, flicking through TV channels, bored out of my brain. And I stumbled upon a Spanish language channel, and they were showing what do they call them? Telenovelas?
Yeah. Yeah.
Telenovelas. Man, this thing just captured me. I don't speak Spanish, so it's all subtitles. And I'm watching this, like, this is the most amazing. The pettiness is on an extreme level. The jealousies are on an extreme level. The passion is on, and everything is on extreme. And there's villainous characters, and they do things like,
Yeah.
and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
The very twirling the mustache.
It's almost like silent movie acting where everything has to be, you know. And I'm like, I could totally get sucked into this. I could watch this all the time. And I don't want to do that because I did that once
But you might
before.
learn Spanish that way.
Well, I
It's like,
might. And my crew at work were kind of like, maybe you should. You might pick up a few things. And I was reminded that 5, 10 years before then, when I was in England on one of the satellite channels, because we had Sky TV and it's satellite TV, they were showing one of these telenovelas, and my wife and I started watching it. And this one I think it was filmed in Florida, but it was a Venezuelan cast or something like that. But again, we were like, this is so juicy. It's crap. It's absolute garbage. This is not like,
oh, yeah. Oh my God, the gardener's actually my brother, and I've slept with him. Yes, that's
yeah, but we got to a point where we were like, we have to stop watching this because we were watching it every night because it's on every day. And I'm kind of reminded of, I don't remember who it was. It's a famous actor, very famous actor, award, like established award winner, Academy, BAFTAs, Sundance, Golden Globes, what have you. They won a People's Choice Award and they went and got it. And then they were being interviewed and somebody was like, People's Choice Award. I wish I could remember who this was. And they said something like, actually, this is the most important award I've ever won because this wasn't peer reviewed. This is purely the fans. Pure, like Joe, it was like the Blockbuster Video Awards or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Someone
That
filled out a card and they
and
made
they
my
mailed it in. I like this guy. This was my favorite movie of the year.
yep.
Bomb. And they were like, this means more to me because this is fans. These are people who actually nobody's critically analyzing my work.
They just enjoy it.
They just really enjoyed it. And as a performer, that's what you want. Again, you go back to Claremont. Is he the greatest comic book writer? No, no, God, no, no, no. And I think Claremont, I would like to believe that Claremont has a strong enough understanding of his abilities that I'm sure if somebody comes up to him and says, "You're the greatest comic book writer who ever lived," and I'm sure Claremont, well, that's very kind, it's very thankful, very grateful. And in the back of his mind, he's like, "You need to really get out and read more." Um, but he's so good at giving people what they want. And what they want is drama and passion and danger and excitement and all of these things. And he could just keep doing it and keep doing it. And if it wasn't for a bunch of editorial nonsense and or maybe a little exhaustion, he might still be doing it.
There's a very enjoyable, and it's a little dated. X-Men documentary on Amazon Prime Video
Hmm.
that interviews Claremont.
I've seen it. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
and but the interesting thing was Anne and Wheezy were interviewed in there as well,
Yep.
and they gave a better political analysis of the environment because Claremont was pretty I mean, Claremont was pretty didn't really throw people under the bus, but when we got the subject of Jim Lee, you could see his entire body language change, um and so that's very fat. And I've said it on the podcast a couple times. I've said it out loud. Once everyone wanted him off the X-Men, and
Hmm.
then when he left, and then when Jim Lee left, everyone wanted him back, and then they weren't happy when he showed back up. And so I I still consider him as one of the in our generation,
Mm.
not trying to compare him to Kirby or some of the pioneers. He's probably one of the top 20 writers
Hmm.
easily. Marv
Absolutely.
Wolfman, and then there's the next group where I put the Bendises and the Hickmans and all, so the 70s and 80s, you know, that group of writers. And because I don't, Bendis is a different writer than Claremont. They could be compared to some, but I try to break them up in little groups.
Yeah.
Because once again, Kirby is not the cleanest artist ever,
No.
but a huge pioneer and very enjoyable. I had to rediscover Kirby to appreciate him. So, like Claremont, I think they'll be. I really hope they keep these Marvel Epic lines going for a while in these trade
Mm.
paperback lines, so I can hand a Claremont book to a kid
Yeah.
and go, I know you're enjoying X-Men right now, but and something other than the Dark Phoenix saga. Here you go. Here, try this. Hope you enjoy this. And the first trade of Excalibur, I'll put that up with him and Alan Davis. I really enjoyed that in the first 24 of New Mutants.
Oh, it was super fun.
Yeah.
Sorry if I looked distracted. My youngest daughter just walked past and
Oh no,
was
I'm
like,
I
"Are
keep
you
checking things
okay?"
too because I
Okay,
because
I'm fine. No, I'm just sitting here talking to myself.
yeah,
Um,
there's a very strong pepper onion smell in my house too. That I'm like, it's like, oh, Allie must
Hello.
be cooking, I guess.
We
I
hope.
I hope or
Um, no, we were talking about this last time, these epic collections, and the one where they're in Japan, and I was reading it. I read because that was an issue. To Have and Have Not is the name of that particular story in that particular issue, and it's the one where Wolverine and Rogue team up and basically tear apart a good chunk of Tokyo because they're trying to find where Silver Samurai is. Because all the other X-Men have been poisoned, and Wolverine and Rogue are the only ones who managed to recover and get through it. And I remember buying that issue, and I bought that issue on the strength of that cover. It's a brilliant, I think it's Paul Smith,
yeah.
where Wolverine is in the foreground and
Yep,
Rogue's in the
that's black
background,
background.
and
I
kind
mean,
of running at you. Like,
yeah,
mm.
I think they used that for the cover of the Epic
Yes, they did.
collection.
Yes, they did. And so I'm like, oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I loved it. I reread that and reread that. Didn't get the issue before, didn't get the issue after. But that just on its own, reread. So anyway, so I reread it, and here we are, what, 40 years later, 40 plus years later, and I'm like, this totally holds up. This is so tense, and the combined vision of Claremont and Smith on the pencils, the sequence when they get to the hospital, and Wolverine and Silver Samurai have this fight, and it's split into each page gets split into four widescreen panels.
Yes, I remember that
And
style.
all of a sudden it has an almost Sergio Leone quality to it, where these incredibly grievous wounds. He stabs him in the throat. He stabs him in the heart. He slices him and dung, dung. And in the end, of course, there can only be one winner because there's only one of them's got a healing factor. And it's very taut, and you're like, oh, got into this, and it still works. Claremont, I absolutely adore Chris Claremont, and I might be sitting here saying, is he like one of the greatest comic book writers who ever lived? No, no. Hold on a second. Um, and um, is he one of the greatest comic book writers who ever lived? No. But favorite? Yes.
and
Loved it.
and
Yes.
and probably
Claremont's,
hands
sorry.
down probably the better no the hands down the better X-Men writer in a long time.
Oh yeah, no, it's he got it. He got it. And if Claremont's name appeared on another Marvel book in that time period, you were going to pick that thing
Yeah.
up. New Mutants, I'm there. You know, Excalibur, totally there. You know, Excalibur was super fun. Silly, yes. Demented, oh yeah. But Claremont understood there's a British sensibility to kind of wacky, outrageous comics. Let's see if we can do that with the X-Men. And they did. It's brilliant. And Alan Davis is just
Yeah.
a delight. Alan Day. I think of Alan Davis. I think of De'Aaron Quinch, and I think of Excalibur. Yeah, and he's such a good artist. Um, and there you go. So, what was the subject matter of this podcast? What did we
There,
say? Legacy?
we even acknowledged we didn't know what we were
Didn't
doing.
really know, did we?
It's just two old guys reminiscing.
Yes,
The Brit and the Brat.
that's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
And I know we touch upon ground somewhat repeatedly, but it's all part of the passion. So if you read X-Men today, and like I said, I am enjoying it. I am quite enjoying it. I like what McKay and Simone are sort of, they're very different in their approaches, and I like that because Uncanny X-Men should be a different tonal book from the X-Men. You shouldn't be able to just stack them together and say, well, now this you can read this as a weekly, one in, one out, one out, which is kind of what Bendis tried to do when he was writing both of those books. But I don't think he succeeded very well. He did it very well, I think, with the Avengers, but I found that when he was doing the X books, I think Bendis really got it the way that I would have liked. That may be unfair. It's just one fan's opinion. Um, but I'm kind of enjoying this, and it's very locked down. With Krakoa, I totally drank the Kool-Aid. I'll read every bloody spin-off book, ongoing mini-series, X-Men, Excalibur, Marauders, X-Factor, X-Force, X-Club,
X Corpse.
X-Explorers,
Yeah.
X,
Well, and I will say for a time,
uh,
it's not necessarily, like you were tricked into it. You kind of needed to read all that to see what Hickman was doing, even though he wasn't
you wanted
involved.
to,
You wanted to
it
see
was
the
a
world, and it was,
big tapestry.
and
Yeah,
after so many years of legal bullshit where Marvel didn't want to help out Fox, we had Old Man Wolverine and
hmm,
Left-Handed Beast and not Nightcrawler and all these other things. To
right.
see your characters back, what I feel bad for, and I forget the creator who had about an 8 or 9 issue run of nothing X-Men stories where Cyclops lost an eye
Yeah,
and all that leading up to Hickman. Like, he signed on knowing probably 2 issues in, oh, they're going to give this to Jonathan Hickman
Rosenberg.
at Roseburg. And see, those stories brought me back to the X-Men. The most insane line that made me laugh my ass off was when Emma obviously knew Cyclops came back from the dead, and some government guy is like trying to interrogate her. She's like, if you don't think for 1 minute that I was, if he was alive, he wouldn't be in my bed, and I wouldn't know, all this very Emma arrogant
Yeah,
thing where she knew and all of that. I was like, that was really getting interesting. And then it's like, oh, no, here we go, clones and all of that. It's
yeah.
we get that, but as far as we said something about the podcast and how we repeat that, this might be someone's first podcast with us, and they
That's
might
pretty true.
hey, we got a whole library of them. We're
Yeah,
trying
we
to
do.
do better about frequencies, but we are going to talk about this stuff over and over again because there's if someone hears this for the first time, whether you come to our shop or not,
Mm.
if you find a love of the craft and the medium, and you can go, I enjoy listening to these two guys. I hope I have a friend someday that I can sit and talk to about
Right.
comic books.
Yes.
I find my tribe that I can sit here and even if we disagree, it's not contentious. If we're a platform for that, I've done my job.
Yes.
You know, I want to be the historian. I do want to, put on a show and all of that, have
Mhm.
some backgrounds and stuff. But at the end of the day, it is about having a good conversation.
It is.
And if we can ever trick James Robinson into being on here, and we're still trying, kids, we really are. It would be just nice to talk Starman uh,
It sure would.
with the
It sure
Godfather.
would.
But
Yeah, but it's no, it's fun. I mean, it's you read it, you both get something different out of it, and then you come together and you talk about it. And again, some things get resolved, some things don't. Never really did get a satisfactory denouement to the Jean Grey has a bedroom with doors adjoining to Scott Summers on one side and Logan on the other. My sandwich night joke still plays in my head as being, it was a particularly good one.
we all laughed at that when we first saw it, and then we thought about it and went,
Then he
oh,
thought about it.
and and
And
and then the jokes of, well, what happens if Gene's not there? Does Scott and Logan just, oh
well, there's
my,
that one scene in one of the books where they're
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
hanging around in their bathrobes and
yeah,
lamenting the fact that Gene won't be there tonight. And hey, so what do you want to do? And it's like, what?
yeah. No, I'll happily forget that moment.
I'm not sure where this is
Yeah,
going. I'm not sure that I believe where this is going.
yeah. Nope.
Uh,
Nope. I was never shipping Scott and Logan. I can promise you that.
no, 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 no.
That-
No.
and
I think
I'm glad there wasn't a third door for Professor Xavier, because that would have just been, you know,
well, you see, there's Jean Grey's room, and then you've got Logan on this side, and you've got Scott Summers on this side, and then of course there's the secret door in the back that brings in Omega Red,
yeah.
and he's got tentacles.
And
Um,
and all that line brings me back to something I remember from Josh Whedon's run of Astonishing X-Men, when Wolverine and Cyclops are fighting, and Emma's standing there with Hank, and she's like, well, millions of dollars worth of surgeries, this and that, and I still rank below a corpse.
yes, Emma Frost is always when done well,
Yes.
and Morrison did a great job, and yes, Whedon had some good ones as well. She's she's always kind of fun. Um, and I yeah, there you
and
go.
and and unfortunately, you and I have invested a lot of money in her variant covers, so that's and action figures.
Ah,
I got her X-Men 97 action figure. Found out the
really?
other day. I was like, oh, why not? Just
Mm,
ha.
I not say anymore.
Will not confirm or deny. That's
We are who we are.
yeah.
Um, and that's all there is to say about that.
I guess we could end it on that.
I think we better
All right, well, let me.
before we get a little too open.
Oh, you know me. I'll answer any question once. So that's all right, kids. We're gonna end this one, and we'll see you next time.
Stay warm.